All right, Tarj. So we got to stay two or 30 teams in 30 days. We're talking about the Celtics today. The Celtics, they reached the Eastern Conference Finals, but it felt like a disappointing loss to the Miami Heat. What can the Celtics improve on, and what changes can they make going into next season?
First of all, let's talk about the Celtics previous season. As last season, they were the number three seed in the East, which is respectable. Milwaukee Bucks, we all expected them to be number one. Toronto Raptors, we know they weren't going to fall off too much, even though Kawhi left. So Celtics between 2 and 3 weeks, we expected them to be there. Heck, I mean, when they reached the playoff, everybody thought it'd probably be Boston and Milwaukee in the Eastern Conference Finals, and you see the Miami end up kicking out both or two of those teams. Yes, Gordon Hayward, he was not healthy again in the playoff. That hurt them tremendously because we all know Gordon Hayward's the number one ball handler. He initiates their offense, and you see their offense was stagnant coming down the stretch without Hayward. And then Kemba Walker, he wasn't healthy at all in the playoff. His knee wasn't healthy at all in the playoffs, so that also cost the Boston Celtics. So I mean, all those things. Because if you look at before the bubble, Kemba Walker wasn't even playing. He only played in one of the 8 games for the NBA restart, and there were talks about he was going to miss the first 2 rounds. But since Gordon Hayward was out, we couldn't let Kemba Walker spend any more time on the bench. So I think those two injuries hurt the Boston Celtics more than they thought it would have throughout the playoffs. Maybe if those guys are healthy, they make the finals. Maybe not. We'll never know. But we surely knows that the Boston Celtics we saw against Miami isn't the Boston Celtics that we are probably going to see moving forward. That team we saw against Miami Heat, the Boston Celtics is better than that when they're fully healthy. Now moving on to next season, it's no question the Celtics need a big. Yes, Daniel Tice, yes, he was there. Yes, he was reliable. He held it down. But coming down the stretch, you saw where they were getting killed down low. They were getting killed on the boards. They had nobody. I mean, Tice, he's a pretty good shot blocker, but in terms of his defense, big to big, it's not there at all. In terms of his rebounding, it's not there at all. You saw Tatum let the team down. So it's pretty obvious they need a big man. If you look at the Celtics, if you look at their offseason capabilities. They have 3 picks in the first round this year. They have the number 14 pick, 24th pick, and the 30th pick. I expect Danny Ainge. I expect him to try to at least move up in the draft or package a few of those picks to get a reliable big, because Danny Ainge, it doesn't make sense we have all these picks. What are we gonna do with 3 picks? What are we gonna do with 3 more picks in the first round? You already have a bench that's basically you don't need 3 picks. Either you trade up to get a Obi Toppin, even if you get a Wiseman, you trade up, you package him with maybe Romeo Langford, you trade those picks in the future, you trade up and get a Wiseman, get an Obi Toppin. If you trade up to like number 6, I think you'll be able to get him. Even with that 14 pick, I think you take a guy like Cole Anthony. You need a backup point guard next to Kemba Walker. You take Cole Anthony, either Tyrese Maxey. You take one of those guys at 14 with that back, because we need a backup point guard. And then 24 and 30, you see with that, see some pieces. If anyone on the free agent market, I think Ibaka will be the perfect signing for them in terms of defense and shot blocking and rebounding. He provides all. And in terms of Celtics are one of the best perimeter shooting teams in the league. And I think if you sign Ibaka, you also strengthen your strength and also strengthen your weakness, because we've seen in the playoffs, Ibaka can't step out and shoot the three. So I think he'll be the perfect signing for them. Maybe you bring back Aaron Baines. He's a tremendous rebounder. He knows the offense. Maybe you bring him back, but we all know Daniel Dice is not the answer at center, and I think that should be their number one offseason priority.
Yeah, just a couple of things. The Celtics, I mean, in the regular season in the East, I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but like for a team of the Celtics caliber, like it doesn't really matter. You know, you're gonna be like just based on like how good they are, you're gonna be a top four in the East automatically. And just a couple of stuff. I'm not gonna let you get away with this Campbell being injured in the playoff stuff. Like, listen, the dude. Okay, yeah, he until what that was after they got bounced. So until you brought up he was injured, I did not see, like, he did not look like he was injured at all. Nobody brought it up. It was
You
not
didn't
mentioned.
see Kemba Walker looking injured. You didn't see him. You didn't see him shooting 30%. You didn't see him scoring 5 points.
That's
You
just
didn't.
him
You didn't see
playing.
that. You
That's
didn't see
just him
those
playing
things.
bad. That's just him being a bad player. Like those first couple of games when he was playing bad, you never brought up anything about injury. It was only when they got bounced out that you started bringing up injury. Like you just was ripping him apart, saying he can't play defense. He need to step up. You was him saying nothing about defense. So I'm not letting you slide with that. I'll give you the Gardner point. He was injured. He was out. Yeah, this is huge. I mean, that's a big loss because you're playing this guy where he getting $30 million and he hasn't been there in the postseason at all. So I think y'all should move off Gardner. Would try just get rid of him. Hopefully, I think it'll even be good if he decides not to opt in. That way, you guys don't have to trade him, and you guys could just get that cap space, keep that cap space for somebody else instead of just trading it for other two pieces that you don't really need. um, and then yeah, you touched on it. You guys, Tice he's okay, but the league is starting to shift away from small ball to more like a medium sized ball with kind of like a forward a big kind of hybrid forward who could scratch the floor and shoot the three. So that's what the league is starting to go to now. Like you need somebody who could protect the rim and shoot the three and step out and guard people on the perimeter. That's really what you need at that five spot now. And I think the Celtics, this is, I mean, I don't, if it was a chance to make it to the finals, yeah, it was this year. Like they made it to the conference finals against LeBron. I can't remember. I think it was back in 016 or 017.
17.
017, and they lost
17,
7
18.
games with a young Jason Tatum. That team is fairly young, but these guys, I don't like saying the Celtics are young because if you look at guys like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, they have a ton of playoff experience. Like, yeah, they're young, but they have more playoff experience than most guys in the league. So yeah, they're still young in their 20s, like early 20s, but these guys have a lot of playoff experience because since they came into the league, they've been doing deep playoff runs every year. So I don't want to give this team they're still young and learning excuse because they're not. These guys, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, they played in like 40 playoff games already, something like that. That's a lot, especially for how young they are. But I think I don't know how the Celtics are gonna get better. Maybe at the center position. Like you say, that's the only way I could see it. But I think just Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown have to take that next step. You know what I mean? Like Jason Tatum must have turned into that superstar in order for this team to get over the hump and make it to the finals. That's what I think. That's what I think needs to happen.
First of all, Kemba Walker was injured because before the restart, Kemba Walker missed games. During the restart, he missed games. They talked about him missing the first 2 rounds in the playoffs, and they just happened to let him play. The reality is he was injured. Just because he's injured means you have to say it every day. Like I think everyone should just understand he's playing injured. I don't have to say he's injured after every game just for me to use that as an excuse whether we win or lose. No, the reality is he is injured, and even if he's injured, I still expect us to win. But reality of it is, when we're doing an assessment in the offseason, we have to state the facts, and that's the facts. That's not an excuse. That's just facts. But the reality is, Jason Tatum is going to take the next step. We saw what he did in the playoffs. He averaged 24, 7, and 6. I think he was only played average over 25. 7 and 5 in the entire playoffs. Next to LeBron, Jason, he's ready to take the next step. Jaylen Brown is ready to take the next step. I hope they ingratiate Jaylen Brown more on the offense because what we see in the playoff, they shied away from Jaylen Brown, even though he was our most efficient scorer in the playoffs, and that really, I think that ticked him off, and I think that ticked a lot of guys on the bench off, on the coaching staff off as well, because Jaylen Brown, we know he can get buckets. He can get you 30 any night. He can average 24. That's what Jaylen Brown can do. So I think they need to get him more ingratiated in the offense, and they'll be all right. Gordon Hayward, I think it's best Gordon Hayward opts into his contract because why? Celtics already over the cap. Whether they keep Gordon Hayward or not, they're still going to be over the cap. Losing Gordon Hayward is not going to create cap space. You're already $30 million over the cap, and So you're getting an exception based off the fact that you signed them previously. So if he opts out, you're not it's not any cap space that you're getting. It's just that he's gone. So I think it's best he opt in. And when he opts in, you can either trade him or you can stay. I don't think it's necessary for Gordon Hayward to leave. I think we're a pretty good team with Gordon Hayward. I think the team with Kemba, Hayward, Tatum, and Jalen Brown with a guy like Ibaka, I think that's a championship team. I don't think Gordon Hayward has to leave. You have to understand, Gordon Hayward averaged 7, 6, and 5. Like he was number one ball handler. Gordon Hayward was the one who initiated the offense. Like people don't realize what Gordon Hayward provides to the team because the big names are Kemba and Jason Tatum. So you don't realize Gordon Hayward's you don't realize his how vital he is to the team, especially outsiders. But I think real Celtics fans understand what Gordon Hayward means to the team. So I don't think you have to move off him right now. It's only 1 year left on his contract. Let's just play it out. And if it doesn't work, then it's fine. But I think you need to address real situations, which is your big man. Maybe get like a guy like Ibaka, like I say, Aaron Baines. Even if you can get a guy like Christian Wood and Danny Ainge, please find a way to trade those picks. We do not need those picks. And I've seen this trade rumor saying Gordon Hayward for Miles Turner and Oladipo. No, we don't want Oladipo. We don't want Miles Turner. Miles Turner is not the answer. He's another young guy with little to no playoff experience. Who we gonna have to bring along again? And Oladipo, he's been injured. He's another undersized guard. You don't need Kemba Walker and Oladipo in the backcourt because neither of them can play defense. Both of them are under 6'2". That's just a recipe for disaster. I also see a trade for what's the guy in San Antonio, the big man in San Antonio.
LaMarcus
From
Aldridge.
LaMarcus Aldridge. Maybe if you can get an Aldridge for 1 season, I still don't think he's the answer, but I still think it's an upgrade if they are looking for an
That's an
upgrade.
upgrade.
I think
I don't
he's
think
still a
he's
little bit
an
more
answer.
money. Maybe you have to get rid. You would have to get rid of Gordon Hayward for Aldridge. I don't know, but it's a lot of things they can do. I think you can address it in the draft. Like I said, if you could move up and get an Obi Toppin, I think he can provide tremendous minutes because we only need you to play defense and get rebounds. We already have the scoring down part. You don't need to pressure the score. Just play defense, get rebounds. We need to take some of the rebound and load off of Tatum. See, Tatum was averaging almost 10 rebounds in the playoffs. Tatum averaged 10 rebounds in the playoffs, as a matter of fact. So that's really what they need right now. Other than that, I don't think it's too much. And also the bench. Brad Wanamaker, he was the 7 man off the bench behind Marcus Smart. As you see, he led the league in free throw percentage with 93%. I think they're gonna miss him because I don't think they'll be able to re-sign him because he's gonna be getting at least $10 million, maybe more. And Celtics don't have that money, so their bench is gonna be depleted as well.
Uh,
Maybe if you want,
well, I mean, I think a couple of things. I think the Celtics should look to probably trade Gordon Hayward and get some more role players. Some people you could bring in and have a defined role because right now we see on the Celtics just this postseason, like Smart got hot for like a series, and then he thought he was the guy, and then Jalen Brown think I should be getting more shots, and then of course Jason Tatum and Campbell Walker, all these guys got to eat, so it's a conflict. Interest right there is like who's really the man, because obviously Tatum and Kemba are, the better players, but Smart and Jalen Brown been playing just as good as those guys in the playoffs. And I feel like, bringing Gardner back into the mix as another guy who could go get you 20 plus a night. So you got, 4 guys who capable of getting 4 or 5 guys who capable of getting you 20 plus a night. You probably move off one of those guys and get yourself like a role player or two, who could come off the bench and have a defined role. Okay, my role just get defense, play defense, and get rebounds, or just I think just something like that, just a slim, just so you could play more team ball. Because like we just saw it in this postseason, it was a lot of conflict of interest, and I feel like Smart going forward, Smart starting to feel like he got that little taste of being the guy and seeing the ball go through the net. So I feel like that's gonna be something to watch closely going forward because he did play really good in that Toronto series and he was shooting the ball pretty well. And I feel like he's gonna have to settle back into that role, the defensive stopper and if I'm open, shoot a three type of thing, but not bringing the ball up the floor and jacking up threes and stuff like that, like he was doing and that we saw in the playoffs. So I mean, I feel like that's going to be something to look into. Maybe moving off one of those guys and bringing in some role players who could, be defined and have a distinct role.
Maybe if you trade Haywood, maybe they like Houston, you probably get like an Eric Gordon and a PJ Tucker. If you trade Haywood on some picks, I think Houston would be open to something like that, especially with Daryl Murray being gone, with Mike D'Antoni being gone. I think they're trying to be more of a team than just a bunch of Sixth Street guys. I think maybe Houston would do that deal. Haywood and some picks for Gordon and PJ. I think Houston would be open to something like that, or Eric Gordon and Covington. Like I think that helps your bench and helps your depth as well. Maybe if they want to trade him to Indiana, because we know he's from Indiana, he lives in Indiana. Maybe you add a guy like Doug McDermott to that trade package along with Miles Turner, along with all the depot, maybe Celtics send a pick. If they want to do something like that, I would probably be open to something like that because at least it brings them bench up. Yes, like you say, the thing with Marcus Smart is, and a lot of Celtics fans struggle with a guy like Marcus Smart because he has a lot of highs, he has a lot of lows. Marcus Smart is that guy that at some point he's diminishing return. Like a Marcus Smart, he's pretty good. You give him between under 25 minutes, Marcus Smart is a pretty good player. Under 25 minutes, less than 10 shots, pretty good player, damn good player. Probably one of the best defensive players in the league for sure, top 5 for sure. When you see him start getting between that 25 to 35-minute range, that's where Marcus Smart's his value starts to diminish. That's where he starts to take too many shots. That's where his ego starts to rise a little bit too much. That's when he starts to turn the ball over. And we see that happen throughout the playoffs coming down to the Miami Heat series where he just wasn't as good, like that's the reality of Marcus Smart. You gotta live with it. You gotta live with it. He's gonna be great for a short period of time and maybe a little bit more than that. But if you give him a starting role, at some point it's gonna be diminishing return. But like you said, this team, at some point, this team is ready to get over the hump. Like, I don't think we should be making any excuses. The only excuse I would say, they need a big man. I think that was the biggest glaring need. And maybe 1 or 2 bench pieces. Other than that, this team should have no excuse to not make the finals next year. Along with the Milwaukee and along with a team like the Miami Heat, if they sign something, those 3 teams should have no excuse. Along with Philly, those 4 teams should have no excuse not to make the finals next year. The reality of it is we're going to be making an excuse for all those teams. The team that doesn't make it, I think one of those 4 teams is going to make it. The 3 teams that doesn't, I think we're going to be making excuses for those teams. And we shouldn't, because all those teams are good enough. I think all of them are equal. I don't think anyone is head and shoulders above anyone else. I think Milwaukee and Boston are the 2 favorites, but I think Philly's going to be better with Doc Rivers coming in. I think Miami's going to be better because I think they're going to add some pieces. But I think Celtics have a chance next year, at least to come out these.
Yeah, they definitely. It's gonna be interesting to watch. I think one thing to what about the Marcus Smart point is Marcus Smart is the leader of this team, man. He feel as though since he's the leader that he should be taking a lot of shots. So that could be, I feel like that too right there is a problem in itself. So that might just, I think it's just interesting. But I don't think Marcus Smart's dimension returns after up to 35 minutes. The dude is he made first team all defense. He's, you want him on the floor and he can shoot the three. You just need to limit the amount of shots he takes.
That's the point. When he's on the floor too long, he takes more shots. When he's on the floor too long, he starts to turn the ball over. That's the reality with Marcus Smart. Yes, he's always got to be the defensive stopper, but on the offensive side of the ball, he starts to eradicate like throughout in those later minutes when he gets too many heavy minutes. Like this guy, he took 22 shots in game 6 of the Eastern Conference Finals. in the game we lost. The most shots on the team. There's no reason Marcus Smart should be taking 10 more shots than Jaylen Brown. There's no reason Marcus Smart should be taking 10 more shots than Kemba Walker. There's no reason he should be taking more shots than Jason Tatum. And we've seen numerous times he took more shots than Jaylen Brown and Kemba Walker. Him and Jason Tatum was on the same amount of shots. And that's the reality of this. That's not the recipe of success for the Boston Celtics. We need Marcus Smart. Yes, you need to take at least 8 shots, maybe about 5 threes, and then about three transition buckets, and you need to play defense. That's the role that he needs for this team to succeed. Yes, we know he can do more. We know he can do more if given a bigger role. But for the Celtics to succeed, for their recipe for success, that is the role Marcus Smart needs to play.